were thinking of starting with the teachers asking you questions. So each of us will probably start with a question and then throw it to the kids to do their questions for you.
All right, well, it is 9:29. Do we want to start allowing the kids to come in? Because we do start at 9:30. Okay, well, great. We're going to start letting the kids come in.
Okay.
As they're coming in, Misty, I'm just curious as to whether or not you were able to see a short video of the different genres of work that we do.
I did. Yeah, received a couple of videos. It's amazing.
Great. Morning, boys and girls. Girls so far.
Now, Misty, this is a combination of theater and dance students. I'm sure you were told that. So they're not just all dance students, but the dance students will be the ones who will be asking you questions.
Okay. Very cool. Hi.
You're looking good, boys and girls. Okay. I like to say, make some noise out there. Let us know you're awake. You had your coffee. You're ready to go. Yeah. Looking good. You know, with this remote instruction, distance learning, it is very tough. You know, we so miss seeing the kids in person, talking to them, and it's we hope to get back pretty soon to some in-person instruction.
Right. It's
just very tough just
Yeah.
to not be close enough to them. It
Right.
really, really is.
Oh, I know the feeling.
Yeah, but we're making it through.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know. Well, let someone else go ahead and lead this conversation. I don't know if you knew much about the school itself. Probably Dirk shared some stuff with you.
Is Dirk back?
I don't see him back.
Let me call him.
Yeah. All right.
Okay. So just wait patiently, everyone. We're still letting people in, so just be patient.
Okay. Hey, I wonder if you could pick out Misty Copeland from the rest of the teachers at the table. Wonder. Do you think you can? How many of you, yes, you see Misty Copeland in the screen? Give me a thumbs up if you see Misty Copeland in the screen. Just want you to, I want to know if you recognize her. Yeah. Yeah, she's beautiful.
Dirk will join with another computer because he's struggling with that one. And so he will appear as Anderson.
Okay. All right. Do we want to give him another minute or give them another minute? Do we want to go ahead and get started?
Here he comes.
Oh, there he is.
Yay.
And maybe not all of our students know Mr. Lombard, but I don't know if all of your students know him, Ms. Foster and Ms. Moran.
I made it.
Yay!
Oh, there he is. Okay.
Without you.
I'm a big jokester. I did it on purpose. Ha 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 ha. Misty, welcome. I'm so sorry. I'm a bit late. Did you? Should I explain how we met? How we got connected?
That was good.
That'd be good. Okay, so I was hired years ago by Agnes DeMille to work on the tap segments of Rodeo, one of her most famous ballets. And I had done the tap work for it for Joffrey Ballet, for Winnipeg, ABT many times, Joffrey many times. So we, DeMille, of course, wanted to do it with ABT and wanted Misty to do it. So I was brought in to help with the tap section. So that's when I was thrilled to work with Misty. I was in the same room. I said, oh, I'm in the same room with Misty Copeland. And she is already a pretty big star at this point, but the DeMille estate was thrilled to have her play the cowgirl. And again, I was involved with the piece. We did it up at the Kennedy Center Opera House. She is the absolute best cowgirl I've ever seen do this piece, the lead. And this was a role that was originally done by Agnes DeMille. Agnes originated this in her late 30s and became a huge star, huge choreographer. Rodgers and Hammerstein came to see it, invited her to do Oklahoma, and the rest is history. Mm-hmm. So Misty came in to play this part. Hilarious. Oh. Absolutely hilarious. And at the same time being that she broke your heart. You know, and she was so emotionally filled the role, and I've never seen it done so well. The first woman of color doing this role, and also, so that's how I knew her. And then, of course, working with this wonderful school, it was like and the fact that she's written books about her career, a children's book. Yeah. A spokesperson, and just everything, commercials, televisions, movies. I knew she would hopefully give back a little. So I reached out and said, could you talk to this wonderful school that we have? We have a lot of kids, people who want to be in the arts of all different color. And it's just an important, thing for them to hear from a person who is as famous as Misty, to know that it's possible. And yeah.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. So
I don't believe a lot of what you just said about me, but it was such an honor to work with you and to dive into a role so iconic, and to be challenged. I think as artists, that's definitely something that keeps us going every day and keeps us wanting, it keeps us thriving, is that challenge. And so as any of those classical dancers out there, it's very hard to transition into tap when you're so used to not relaxing your ankles and feet. It's very difficult.
Different muscles are exercised. Yeah. And you have to, with that piece and everything, you have to do the time step. The people have to do the time step, and the time step people think, oh, it's easy to do the time step. It's not, So that's good for my tappers to know that back there, because they've got great ballet background and they're learning tap.
Amazing.
Tell us about your early, your childhood and how you found ballet going into that, and teachers and things.
Yeah. So I actually was born in Kansas City, Missouri. Now, I don't know anything about Missouri, but we moved when I was 2, but I was the last of 4 children in my mother's first marriage. And, for most of my childhood, from the time I was 2, when we left Kansas City, Missouri, and we moved to Los Angeles, California, which I consider my home. For most of my childhood, my mother was a single parent. Eventually, our family grew to 6 children, and we struggled a lot. There was a lot of instability. There was a lot of abuse, in the atmospheres I grew up in. There was just no consistency in any way. And it definitely attributed to the shy, introverted person I became. And the one consistent thing I could say that was in my household was music. And it's something that I really just held on to. When I heard music, I never wanted to sing. I wanted to move my body. And it became this healing escape for me from the chaotic life I was living as a young girl. So I started choreographing before I didn't even know what that word meant, but I started creating movement that looking back on, I have no idea where the ideas and concepts came from, because the only dance I was exposed to was music videos that I saw, like hip hop and rock music videos. And that was the extent of like seeing dancers. But the movement I was creating was more lyrical. I'd never heard classical music before. And I think it was around the age of 7 that I was, and I don't even know, you guys are all very young, but it was George Michael and Prince, but ultimately it was Mariah Carey. And looking back now, it was her music that really inspired me to dance and to create. Because she looked like me. She was a biracial woman who was succeeding. And I think that was the first moment. I don't think I was conscious of it then, but that I recognized like how empowering representation is. And I was just so drawn to her. And it's amazing that I've been able to tell her that I often say I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be a ballerina if it weren't for Mariah Carey. And people just kind of look at me like, what? You sound crazy. But it was then that I found this confidence that I never ever exuded in any way. And I decided at the age of 12 and a half to audition for the captain of the dance team at my middle school. And my whole family was just stunned. Again, because I was so quiet. I didn't want to be seen or heard. I think a lot of it was shame about the situations that I grew up in. We often didn't have a home. We would move from house to house, living with friends. And at the time that I auditioned for the dance team, we were living in a motel. And so a lot of that was just, the less I say, the more that people just won't know what's going on. So I'm just not going to speak. So when I auditioned for the position of captain, it was a shock to everyone that I was made captain, and I had 0 dance experience. And that was really the start of my journey. And I just started to blossom, stepping onto the stage for the first time. It seems like, you'd be so exposed, but it was the first time in my life that I really felt safe. I felt like I could express myself in a way that I was comfortable without speaking. No one could come onto the stage and touch me or say anything. And I could just be me. And it was then that I was attending the Boys and Girls Club community center in the town I grew up in San Pedro, California. And there happened to be a local ballet teacher who was looking for more diverse students to give scholarships to and bring into her school. And I happened to be one of them. And I took my first ballet class at 13 years old on a basketball court. Wow. And she said immediately that she thought I was a prodigy, and she invited me to her school on full scholarship. I ended up living with her for 3 years. And I ended up with 4 years of training before I joined American Ballet Theater in New York City.
That's fast.
Mhm.
That's fast.
Yeah.
Wow.
And what was it like coming into ABT, American Ballet Theater?
Well, so when I was training with my first teacher, with Cynthia, the topic of race never really came up. I mean, this was the first time in my life, I grew up in mostly Black neighborhoods. I was very conscious, because of the way my mother raised me and my 5 siblings, that though we are biracial, that when we step out of the house every morning, people are going to view us and treat us as Black people. And so that was definitely like my identity from the time I can remember, being a Black girl. But I came into ballet, and it was the first time that I was like, ballerina is now my identity. And, I wasn't even thinking about the color of my skin. And I think I was very fortunate that my teacher made sure that she kind of protected me from all of that chaos that was going on. And it was happening in that little school in San Pedro. There was racism. There were mothers and donors that were pulling their kids out because I was getting to dance the lead. But that was all kept from me because my teacher wanted me to solely focus on my training, because I had such a short amount of time. She did not want me to be distracted in any way. So when I joined American Ballet Theater in New York City, it was a big shock to me to step back and realize, I'm joining a company of 80 plus dancers, and I was the only Black woman. And that went on for 11 years. that I was alone. I think it was I was starting to come into my own, and I was starting to find my voice. And it was really difficult because I was finally in my dream company. My ballet teacher, she showed me videos of American Ballet Theater while I was training, because she knew that of any American company of the caliber she thought I could dance with, she felt that ABT was the most diverse in terms of, the technique and accepting dancers from all over the world. You didn't have to train in the school to get into the company. So she felt like it was the right place for me. So, I'm standing behind Paloma Herrera, who was my idol, at the bar, and I'm on stage with Angel Correa and Ethan, Steve, all of these people that I admired, but then that faded quickly. And, I went from being called a prodigy and literally being taken into the ballet world because I was told I had the ideal ballet body, to overnight, it seemed, being told I no longer had a ballet body. I wasn't right for dance. I needed to lose weight. And it took some time for me to decipher what all of that meant. I wasn't just going to kind of take it laying down, because though I'm a very, I think I can be shy and internalize things. I think my mother definitely showed me, what it was to be strong and stand up for myself, persevere. And so I definitely challenged, all of that. And what I deciphered was that a lot of this language is so common with Black dancers throughout history. And when it's very acceptable to say that to a dancer that they don't have the right physique, because we are in a visual art form that's, focused on your aesthetic. But what they're saying is you're Black, you're too Black to do ballet. Your body is Black and you don't belong here. And I think that once I understood that, it gave me a different type of power and ability to challenge that and to speak up in a way that made sense for me. It was never a fight or a battle. And I've had these conversations for 20 years internally at American Ballet Theater, my experiences of being a Black dancer. And, I think it's the way you have these conversations, and I made them conversations, so that it was a dialogue back and forth and not an attack on anyone, but an education. So it's been quite, a layered and textured career that I've had for 20 years now with American Ballet Theater. And the fight continues, though.
Wow. Is it getting from when you started to now, is it somewhat better? Is it changing slowly, or we just still have a long way to go?
The biggest shift I've experienced in my whole career has been in this time, has been, with the death, with the lynching of George Floyd, has been really the biggest, most drastic steps I've seen. Again, I've been having these conversations both publicly and internally within the ballet community about things I've experienced, things I've witnessed, things that need to change, whether it's just subtle language. It's so ingrained in us in the ballet culture, but we use this word ballet master, and it feels so connected to slavery and race and that the hierarchy and power, control. It's so layered and deep. Even when you think about pink ballet slippers and pink tights, and the fact that they're called European pink and it represents skin. There's so many small things that are suggested, but not that no one's screaming about it, but it's there and it plays into the psyche of a Black and brown dancer. But with the death of George Floyd, this is the first time that I'm having honest and true conversations where people are not just saying the right things because it looks good to have a diversity initiative. I've had conversations with directors of schools, in Europe, big companies, that it's eye-opening. It's heartbreaking for me because it seems so basic, but at least it's happening. and truly, though I helped to start Project Plie, the diversity initiative at American Ballet Theater many years ago. And I think that it's done some good within the school and the company, but these conversations are the biggest changes that I've seen, that I feel like it's touching people in a human way where they've just kind of pushed it aside before, and that to me is promising. I feel like we're getting way too deep too soon.
Well, Dirk, do you have more questions, Dirk, or do you want to transition like kind of into the kids asking questions, or what do you want to do?
I think we're well, just real quick on one, then we'll transition into the kids. How did you? Because you speak so beautifully and you write so beautifully, and how did you transition so well from being a dancer, quiet and everything, to being so well spoken, and it's just you don't seem to miss a step in your truth and honesty and beauty. I mean, yeah, I have to say, you're on Wait, Don't Tell Me, which is my favorite NPR. Let's just say that real quick. And you're incredible. But how do you feel that you transitioned from being a shy dancer into that so well?
It's been a long journey. I think that a lot of people that have maybe not followed my career closely, it seems like overnight, that I went from, maybe hearing something about my story when I was younger to all of a sudden, like Under Armour commercial. But it's really been a long journey of slowly like gaining the courage and confidence through trial and error. When I would say that it probably really started when I worked with the artist Prince, that I was still, I was a soloist at the time in the company, and he reached out to me, and I had amazing mentors and support, mostly from Black women, that had really been like my backbone and gave me the courage to keep pushing on. But Prince, being an artist of his caliber and someone that I respected, and being a Black artist, he kind of, he did something in a way that the ballet world doesn't often. Well, maybe at New York City Ballet, like back in the day, they would just take these baby ballerinas and they'd say, learn Swan Lake in a day, and then go on stage and perform. But I didn't have that experience. It's a lot of, years and years of grooming and nurturing and training. So in ballet, you're over prepared. You're rehearsing and with Prince, it was the first time that I felt like I was being trusted. My choices mattered, and he didn't need to question them. He just allowed me to express myself, and that made me grow in leaps and bounds. I mean, the first time I performed with him, he flew me to Paris, and I had no idea what I was going to perform. And I had never been asked to improvise in a magnitude of that, like that stage, and with an artist like him. And it was so freeing. And, throughout maybe the 5 years that I worked with him, I just continued to gain more and more confidence in myself, and to feel that I was trusted, I think allowed me to build on my voice. And then when I signed with my manager shortly after, a lot of the work that we did for the first 2 years was me just, she asked me, what do you want to do with your career? And I was like, I think I'm doing it all right now. But she was like, I think your story is so important to get out there, and I said, well, I just want to bring ballet to more people. I want to diversify it more. So we would go to schools, we'd go to public schools. I spent 2 years just getting out there and speaking to kids and sharing my story. And that was, I think, when I started to build the confidence to be able to speak in front of people and really express myself. And then writing my memoir at 29 years old was cathartic in a way that I can't even, truly express. I healed from so many things I didn't even know I needed healing from. So it's just been, practice, just like being a dancer.
Yes, no, that's so wonderful. Well, let's open it up for questions. Miss Moran or Miss Foster, do you want to run this?
Yes, we have, the kids are ready. We have about 15 kids, so hopefully we can get through them. 15 kids who are super excited to ask questions. I just wanted to say before before we transition, I had a question, but I want the kids to ask questions. I just want to kind of make a comment that you being here is a culmination for me of a vision that I've had since I've known of you. I am a person who has followed your career since you were a soloist. So I do know your story. You know, people know that I love you. So they've given me your books for Christmas. I've taken my children to see you perform Swan Lake at the Met in New York. Yeah, so I am a person who has followed you. And the reason is not just because of your, your performance, but your story is the reason that I connected to you, because I do teach children with your story, and that's what drew me to you, to be quite honest. And I've always said, wow, if the kids could just ever have the opportunity to meet her, they would know that they come from where she comes from and they can be who she is. So this is a blessing. And I don't take this lightly. This is really a wonderful opportunity. And I hope that my students treasure this just as much as I do. So I just wanted to share that with you. I'll pass it on to Mrs. Moran because I want to let the kids ask questions. So if she has something she wants to add to that, I will allow her to.
Yeah, so just to piggyback on that, exactly what she said, your story is so relatable to the kids that we teach. So I hope, I see their faces, I see them soaking this in. So what a amazing opportunity for us as a staff, for the kids, for everything. So I hope that they're as inspired and touched by this moment as I certainly feel right now. So we had questions for you as well, but like Ms. Foster said, we want the kids to definitely get to express themselves. So we're going to start with one of our 9th graders. Excuse me. We just started our high school this year. So she's in our inaugural freshman class. Her name is Aliana Bullock. Let me spotlight her so she can ask her question. Go ahead, Aliana.
So my question for you was, are you an overthinker? If so, has this ever affected your dancing? For example, forgetting movement. How did you learn to manage thinking about choreography, technique, and performance all simultaneously together?
Great questions. I wouldn't categorize myself as an overthinker when it came to art and dance. In everything else in my life, yes. But this is why it's so important to be consistent in dance. It's so important to be in class, consistently. 5 days a week, we'd hope, or more. But that way you shouldn't be on stage having to think about your technique and having, to think about all of those things at once. But that you want the technique to be ingrained in your body so that it's second nature, so that you can then evolve as an artist and be present on stage and enjoy it. I think ultimately enjoy it. And when you enjoy it, then the audience will definitely feel more comfortable and relaxed and can enjoy it more as well. But of course, I think every artist and every dancer has those moments where you lose focus, and I have definitely forgotten choreography many times. And I think that again, when the technique is second nature in your body, your muscle memory just takes over. If you do forget something, it may seem like a lifetime, but it usually is pretty quick in reality. But I think that for me, what helps me to stay focused, no matter if the work in the choreography is more abstract and it's not a character, to think of dancing as what it is. It's telling a story through movement. And so whenever I'm dancing, it's never just kind of frivolous movement of my body. I'm thinking of why I'm doing certain things. And that really helps me to stay focused. So it's not just like, I have to remember where my arm goes and where this goes, but it's like, what are you saying in this story? And that, I think when I have to learn choreography quickly, that helps me. So I'm not skipping around from different parts of the story if I'm just thinking of the steps. I'm really just thinking about the journey that I'm on. And I think that makes it more enjoyable for the audience too.
Callie, she has been dancing with us since she was in the first grade, and she has a question for all the Point girls. She just started Point last year, and she has question number 3. Go ahead, Callie.
My question is, what are some tips for dancers on Point to help them get on their boxes?
Yeah, it's nice to meet you. Welcome. You know, I think that it's important to find the right shoe for you. You know, I've been in that place where, you know, certain schools, there's like trends and everyone wears the same style or same brand. But I think that it's so important that you find the right brand and style for your foot, because that will help you to achieve, you know, the best way for you to get on point for your foot. So if your shoe is too hard, or, you know, just the box doesn't fit you properly, it's going to just make it that much more like strenuous to get on point. So I think first and foremost, it's like having a proper shoe fitting and making sure that the shoe is right for you, the strength is right for you, or if it needs to be softer, then that's what it is. But again, like I was saying before, it's really about putting in the time and making sure that you are, you know, maintaining your technique and in ballet class every day, in order to have the strength and the flexibility to go on point. I think no matter what it is in dance, there's no shortcuts to it. It's about consistent work, you know, and if you love it, it doesn't feel that way. I know there are days when it does, but it's really about putting in the work. You know, I had a very different journey with Point. You know, I was on Point within 3 months of dancing, which I would not recommend to anyone. But my teacher felt that I was strong enough and ready. And she was, you know, she was there every second. So I was never alone doing this. But, you know, even becoming a professional, you know, with only 4 years of training, there were still holes in my training and things, weaknesses I had. So, you know, even if I was faking it and making it look passable, there's just no shortcut. So it's really just about being patient and putting in the work.
That leads us pretty well actually into the next question. So the next question is from Mariah. She's a 4th grader, a very hardworking dancer of ours. So, and like I said, you kind of set her up for this question well. So here's Mariah.
Hey.
Hi, my question is, what would you change about yourself, and if anything, to become a better ballerina, if that is possible?
Oh. Gosh, I feel like what makes us unique individuals and unique dancers is like our differences. I can't think of anything I'd want to change about myself. Maybe something I'd want to work on more, or maybe like looking back, I would, you know, I wish that I would have had more years of training, maybe, you know, to be able to really accomplish certain feats without thinking about the technique, like we were talking about before, like earlier on in my career. But you know, I'm proud of my journey and everything that I've gone through to get me here. You know, whether, you know, it's making mistakes or you know, being in uncomfortable situations, it's definitely not something that I would want to change again, because it's all of that those life experiences and things have made me the strong person I am and have gotten me here.
Our next question is from Blanca. She is a 7th grader, and I'm going to, Blanca, you can unmute yourself and go ahead and ask your question.
Hi.
Hi. My question is, what are some of the things that you like to do before you perform on stage, like pre-warm-ups or any rituals that you do?
Yeah, thank you. I would say that I'm not like a lot of ballerinas that have rituals and things that they do. I think that maybe the thing that's like consistent with me when it comes to dance and performing is keeping things as normal as possible. So even on a performance day, I want it to feel like any other day. I think as dancers, we tend to psych ourselves out. You know, we'll be running late, we'll run into class, we'll put on shoes that we're like, you know, not freaking out over whether or not they're perfect for this part. And we go on and we'll run a whole ballet without a problem. But then we get to the performance and we're like, oh, these aren't the shoes. They're not right. They're not prepared. Oh my God. I didn't, you know, I walked on a crack today and I didn't walk around the pole and I didn't do this. And it's, and in reality, and, you know, and I think that those things psychologically mess you up. When in reality, you can do this. You can do this in so many different atmospheres. And so I try to keep things as simple and normal as possible. So I treat a performance day like I would any other day. I wake up in the morning, you know, for ABT, we work so much. So I'll take ballet class from 10:15 to 11:45. And then I'll rehearse. I'll be rehearsing from, you know, noon until maybe 5 or 5:30 before a performance at 7:30. So we're, you know, I try to pace myself, you know, as a principal dancer and having to, you know, do a 3 or 4 act ballet in the evening, pacing myself throughout the day. But I think there's something nice about being in the studio and like staying loose and staying focused that prepares me for a performance. But right before, you know, when I'm in the dressing room, I like to, you know, when I was promoted to soloist, they were like threatening me because I wanted to stay in the corps de ballet dressing room. They were like, you have to give up your spot for another corps de ballet girl to go in, and you have to get in the soloist dressing room. But I refused to go because there's just something about the energy and the camaraderie of being around like your sisters and your friends that keeps me like relaxed and focused in a way. And so when I was promoted to principal dancer, I was still in the corps de ballet dressing room, and they were like, no, you really have to get out now. So I'll invite my friends to like come in the principal dressing room with me, and you know, I'll put on like some Drake music no matter what I'm dancing. And you know, but it centers me and it keeps me relaxed. But right before I go on, you know, I like to be on the stage before to feel it out. And then in the wings, like I just take like some moments to myself and breathe and center myself. But I never think about who's in the audience or what could go wrong. It's really just about enjoying yourself.
Yeah, I think that's great advice for all of them. Our next question is from Deani. She's in the 4th grade. So Deani, if you want to go ahead and unmute yourself, I'm going to spotlight you.
My question is, what was your favorite dance or show that you performed?
There's been so many. I mean, I would say that the one that was most impactful for me personally, but as well for, I think, the ballet community, the Black community, was the first time that I performed the role of the Firebird in New York City. And it was at the Metropolitan Opera House. And I was still a soloist at the time. And, you know, it was a very big deal that as a Black woman, I was getting to dance this role. It was the first time a Black woman had done it at American Ballet Theater. And I remember this image of me was on the front of the Met, you know, it was this massive billboard. And the fact that there was like a Black woman on the front of the Metropolitan Opera House, you know, was to me just like a huge step in moving in the right direction for our culture. But seeing the audience, well, you know, seeing pictures and being told who was in the audience that night, you know, to see more than half of the Met full of Black and brown people, that performance for me, you know, it didn't matter what I did on the stage that night. People were there for, you know, what I represented and what I represented to them. And all of the dancers who fought, you know, for their lives, a lot of them, and didn't get an opportunity like I have, and got me to that place on the stage. So I would say that in terms of just really evolving my career and the ballet community and the structure of it, it was definitely that night. But for me personally, I would say the ballet Romeo and Juliet, and dancing that role of Juliet. I danced it in Milan in Italy with Roberto Bolle with La Scala at the theater there. It was a dream come true for a ballerina.
Our next question is from, well, Demetria is back, so I'm going to see if she can ask the question now. She had some technical issues. She is in the 5th grade, and she just joined us actually this year. So I'm going to let her ask her question. Demetria, you can unmute yourself.
Hi.
Hi. What made you choose ballet over every other genre of dance?
Well, I always say that I didn't choose ballet, it chose me. But before ballet, you know, I was choreographing interesting, weird dance numbers to pop music and hip hop music. So, you know, I think that what I fell in love with about ballet were all the things that I was missing in my life as a child. I was missing structure and discipline and consistency and someone nurturing me. This kind of feeling that I was beautiful and accepting all of those things that, you know, in society, you know, I was this tiny little thing with big old feet and long legs and this little head. They call me Peanut. And I felt so ugly. And then I stepped into the ballet world and they were like celebrating all of these things about me that I was told were horrible. And so there were so many things about ballet in particular that made me feel beautiful and empowered and like an individual, and that I could express myself. So who knows, maybe if I would have ended up doing hip hop or tap, I might have found the same experience. But it just so happened that my ballet teacher found me at my Boys and Girls Club and you know, and changed my life. But I think no matter what art form you do, it's going to make you a better person in general and help you in all aspects of your life.
Okay, our next question is from Bria. She's another one of our inaugural high school students. Let me spotlight her. And go ahead, Bria.
Hello. My question is, how do you feel about your life being so highly publicized?
You know, I feel, and you know, I'm not some like A-list Hollywood movie star that can't control the paparazzi or something, but I feel like that these types of things are definitely things we have control over. You know, I think no matter how famous you are or how exposed you are to the public, that we can make choices and decisions depending on the kind of life we want. You know, I don't use my social media for personal purposes. You know, I really use it as a platform for my art form and to be able to share and reach and access people all over the world. And I think that's the power of social media. Yes, there are a lot of negative things that come with it. And when you're a public figure and put even just your work out there, you know, it's really about choosing your battles. And, you know, when it comes to even just comments that I get, whether it's blogs or reviews or comments on my social platforms, you know, I choose to not respond, or if I do, you know, address people, it to me is to open up a conversation about maybe something that's really important. Not necessarily to address the person individually, but again, I think that I've you know, I have the power over who I allow in and what I share with the world. And I think that every individual does. So I think it's our choice. So I'm comfortable with what I share with the world.
Next up, we have Anna. She's in the 8th grade and she has a question for you.
Hi, like I said, I'm Anna Barbosa. My question for you is, what have been your most inspiring moments or quotes that anyone has ever told you that really impacted your life?
Yeah. Gosh, I've had conversations with some really incredible people that have, you know, helped to shape me. And you know, when you're the only, it can be very lonely and isolating. And so there's a lot of words, but I would say that kind of going back to what I was just talking about when it comes to like people's how people feel about you, and not giving them that power, but I would say not letting people's words define me is a very powerful kind of quote that I was told earlier on in my career, you know, when it came to anyone. You know, it could be whether they're positive words or negative words. I think you can't ever take any of it to heart too seriously. You know, it's more about the people that you surround yourself with, and the people that you trust can be honest with you, rather than taking to heart anyone's words that you don't know from, you know, the person, you know, anyone on social media that you don't even know who they are. It's like just not taking to heart people's words, and not letting the power of people's words define you. Okay.
So the next question is from one of our beginning dancers. She's in the 6th grade, but she's new to our program, new to our school. This is Jayla.
Hi.
Hi, my name is Jayla Burgess, and my question for you is, what advice would you like to give dancers new to ballet?
I would say, you know, to do it because you love it. You know, that the hard work, it's a lot of it. It's a lot of hard work, and it's a lot of sacrifice. And so I think that it's really about you know, recognizing that it's something that you are passionate about and you truly want to do. I would say be patient with yourself, and really accept the process, because like I've been saying, like there are no shortcuts, and sometimes you'll feel like you don't see progress, but it's the nature of it. And but when you do see progress, it is so rewarding. It's something that will stick in your bones for a very long time, you know. So I think it's just such a beautiful thing to make a commitment to something like this, like an art form like this, and then see the results of it. So be patient with yourself, and remind yourself every day why you do it.
Good answer. Next, we have Caitlin. She's in the 8th grade.
My question for you is, have you ever felt like you wanted to give up on ballet or stop doing what you love?
Absolutely. You know, I think that's why it's important to have a support system around you, and to have people that are going to remind you of, you know, of your purpose, or of why you do what you do, because there are days when we're just not strong enough as human beings, you know, and that's normal, to have bad days and have even a bad year where you feel discouraged. And it's happened to me before. You know, I've been discouraged by the pressure sometimes of being alone. Probably one of the biggest moments when I felt like, why am I doing this? Like, I wanted to quit at one point, but then it was more like I wanted to leave ABT and go to another company. It was early on in my career, and it was a lot to take in. You know, when I moved to New York City when I was 17, fresh out of high school, and had no guidance. And all of a sudden I'm like the only Black girl in a very white world. And it was a big shift for me. And so when I got a call from Arthur Mitchell, who started the Dance Theater of Harlem, and I was in my early 20s, and he was kind of like, girl, you need to feel like a queen every day. And you are a queen. And, you know, he invited me to dance with his company, and to be surrounded by people who looked like me. It wouldn't even have to be a question in my mind about my purpose or whether or not I should be there in that space. But his words, I think, did the opposite of what he wanted them to do. Because instead of it making me feel like, okay, this is the company I should be with, it gave me this power, and it made me feel like, okay, like I hear your words, and I want to carry on your mission. What he did by leaving the New York City Ballet, an all-white company, and starting the Dance Theater of Harlem, I wanted to stay at ABT and be representation for us and help to move the needle forward, so that, that it's not about having a Black company or white company, but that, that we can prove that we belong in all spaces. But it was a difficult moment to have to turn Arthur Mitchell down for the soloist contract. But he was an incredible supporter of mine. But that was definitely a time when I was thinking of stopping.
Okay, our next question is from another 8th grader, Chloe Murray. Let me spotlight her. Go ahead.
Hey, who are some of the dancers that have inspired and influenced you?
Well, throughout my career, you guys again are so young. I don't know if you go back in history and learn, but Paloma Herrera was someone that I really looked up to from a young age. And I don't know if it was something I connected with because she was like this young prodigy. She was 19 when she was promoted to principal dancer at ABT, which is crazy. Paloma Herrera, Sylvie Guillaume, Julie Kent and Susan Jaffe, Gelsey Kirkland, Mikhail Baryshnikov, and as you might notice, none of those dancers are Black. Growing up, I didn't know of any dancer. I couldn't open up an ABT program and see a Black ballerina. There were dancers that came and went that were soloists that I learned about later in life that were at ABT, Black women. But I think Lauren Anderson was the first Black dancer I'd ever seen, like on the cover of a dance magazine, who was a principal dancer with the Houston Ballet at the time. But ultimately, I would say Raven Wilkinson, who I learned about much later in my career. And she was really the first Black woman to dance in a major ballet company in the United States in the 1950s. And she ultimately ended up leaving the United States because of racism. The Ku Klux Klan were threatening her life. So she moved to Europe and ended up having a fruitful career there. But she was probably my biggest inspiration and ended up becoming one of my really close friends before she passed away a couple of years ago. But to be able to actually touch someone who's been on this journey and ride similarly to mine was so empowering.
Next, we have Aslyn. She's in the 6th grade and she has a question for you. I'm going to spotlight her.
Hi.
Hi. As a child, how did you deal with all the stress at home along with all the stress at dance?
Yeah, it's a lot. I think it's important to be able to express the things you're going through, because your small body can only tolerate so much stress. And I didn't know this, when I was you guys' age and when I was younger, a lot of that stress came out through having, physical things like migraines and then, becoming so introverted. But well, first of all, for me, dance became a stress reliever for my life. But I know that dance can add stress. So I think, again, it's really about communicating with people in your life that you trust. And the more that you express the things that are stressing you out, the more you'll be able to let go and and deal with them. But I think that if you just bottle it up and rely on, whether it is, whatever it may be, that's distracting you from dealing with it is not a healthy way. But again, someone that you trust and someone that's going to be there for you and be a sounding board. I think it's important to express and try to get to the bottom of what is stressing you out. Ultimately, that's the best way to deal with anything that's bothering you in your life.
Mm-hmm. And our final question from the kids is from Kelsey Roundtree. She's a 6th grader.
Hey.
I'm Kelsey Roundtree. And my question to you is, if you were not dancing, what other career would you be pursuing?
Oh, it's so hard to know what I would have done. But with all of my experience up until this point, if I weren't dancing now, I really enjoy creating. And I love eating. So maybe I'd be a chef. Something like that. mean, I also I have a lot of incredible things that I'm working on right now that are very exciting. I have a production company that I started about 5 years ago, and I've got like 15 projects in the works. So I'm really excited to be a dancer on the other side of things with my lens of experience and my voice, and having an authentic and genuine voice as a dancer. You know, when you think about dance movies and television shows that don't often represent us in a real way or in a positive way.
Right.
That was one of the reasons that I really wanted to do this, as well as telling stories of so many, whether it's minority women stories or dancers stories, Black dancers stories that aren't told or aren't in history books, is really the reason I wanted to do this. So I guess I'm moving into producer territory.
One question I would like you to address with them, if you have time. We struggle often with the kids showing confidence in class. They'll do it on stage, you know, like you said, I think they feel comfortable on stage, but, you know, stepping out of their comfort zone in class and not being afraid to stand out and be the soloist, be the one with the attention on them. We have trouble often with, you know, allowing themselves to do that. So do you have some advice you could offer?
Yeah, you know, I think something that's probably easier on stage is that you don't see yourself in the mirror and you can't see other people in the mirror. And I think something, you know, the mirror obviously is there to help you, you know, to be able to work on your technique. But I would just say, like, focus on you. That's like the best thing you can do. It's only going to be distracting. It's only going to make you get in your head when you're looking at other people. You're doing it from a way of comparing yourself. Now, I think that one of the best things a dancer can do is step back, whether you're like, not while you're dancing, but like sit down and observe other dancers. I think you learn so much about yourself. You learn so much about movement and technique and choices by watching other people. When you are dancing and when you are training, focus on you. That is the best thing you can do, because it's only going to distract you and it's not going to help you. Love yourself. Know you're amazing and beautiful and a unique individual. No one can take that away from you.
Absolutely. Well, I think that that's our last question, and we're at the end of our hour. And if, you know, I don't know if any of the other staff have anything they want to say before we close out.
I wanted to say thank you so much, Misty, for other art forms also, because you have reached we have musical theater people here and actors, and you really, and I'm a tapper and I'm a musical theater person, and you've been on Broadway and you've been in movies, and you just, as an artist, you know, exude this wonderful spirit, and your soul is beautiful, your training, your art is beautiful, and we feel it, and we learn from it in all the arts. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's so nice to meet you all. I hope I'll get to come there in person one day soon, but I'm so
yes, please.
Yes, we would love that.
I would too.
Yes. Well, thank you so much. And
I do have a question, if that's okay. One last question. The fact that you said that you're a foodie, and that was what I was thinking in my head. I'm a foodie as well. And on my spare time, I love to cook. So I am interested to know, what is your favorite cheat meal? Because I know
that's a good question.
Watch our weight, you know, but I know in reality, we love to eat.
That's right.
What I say is, I don't believe in dieting and I don't believe in cheat meals. I believe in having in living your life healthy.
Of course.
Know? And that can include having a pizza. So I like pizza.
Awesome.
Pizza, I love cakes, but I love cake and ice cream. And, one of the ones I'm so embarrassed about is probably my Taco Bell. All in moderation.
All right, in moderation, exactly.
Awesome. I'll have to make you some tacos one day then.
All right, well, I think that wraps us up for the day. This has been a gift, and we just want to say thank you and bye.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Awesome.
Bye. Thank you, students. You were great.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.